Welcome back to Annie Recapped. Today, we will cover the series in /Spectre. Leave a like if you enjoyed and make sure to subscribe. At the story's beginning, we see the 11-year-old Kotoko Iwanaga being kidnapped by yokai, who asked her to become the goddess of wisdom. 6 years later, she meets Kuro Sakuragawa sitting outside the hospital bench. He was the man whose life she previously saved and fell in love with, despite him having a girlfriend, Saki Yumehara. Koto greets him, but Kuro is confused since he doesn't know her. However, she makes him remember and tells him that she once saved his life, but Kuro says he can't remember ever being in danger that bad for someone to need to save his life. However, Koto tells him that 2 years ago at this hospital, he was walking through the corridors and some children passed by and accidentally pushed him. But before he fell down, Koto was there and grabbed him. Then he and his girlfriend Saki thanked her, and at that moment, Kuro promised that he would always remember her and pay her back, though at that moment it was love at first sight for Koto. Afterwards, she kept track of him for 2 years until the present day, when she heard that Seki broke off their relationship right before their engagement. Kuto then proposes that they should start dating because she knows his relationship with his ex-girlfriend Saki has ended and he was single, but she wants him to tell her the reason why they broke up. So our poor protagonist explains Seki broke up with him after they saw a kappa, and he ran like a coward. Koto calls him out on the lie, suggesting it was the kappa that ran scared of Kuro, causing Saki to realize Kuro is dangerous. Koto also reveals that the vast majority of yokai fear him. When Kuro asks who she is, she tells him that her job is to make sure yokai don't fight with each other. Afterwards, she shows him that her right eye and left leg are both fake because that's what it took to become a goddess of wisdom. As she leaves on the bus, a dead samurai named Okamusa tells her that a bull Ayakashi is living in the library. So later, Koto asks Kuro to accompany her, and they both head over to the library. When they arrive at the library, she tries talking with the Ayakashi, but it ignores her command and tries to attack her since Kuro can't control it either. They then try to escape, but after running for a while, he turns around and bravely lets the Ayakashi sever and eat his arm. To Koto's amazement, his arm regenerates completely, and the Ayakashi melts and dies. Kuro reveals that he ate 2 yokai when he was 11 years old. The next day, Kuro visits his cousin, a long-term hospital patient, and there he sees Koto. They talk about what happened in the library yesterday. Kuro tells Koto that he ate mermaid flesh, which should have made him immortal, but rather the second yokai he ate turned his immortality into a potent healing ability. He also reveals his flesh has become venomous to yokai. Koto then invites Kuro to come and visit one of the mythical creatures, which is a giant serpent, because she heard that it has some questions that only she could help him with, but Kuro rejects going with her and tells her that he has to make miso soup today. Koto visits the snake alone, not knowing Kuro followed and was watching. The snake god tells her that all the humans are forgetting about him as he hasn't received any prayers from humans in many years, and that humans no longer look up to him as a god of water. After that, he notices that Koto is upset, so the snake asks her what's wrong, and Koto replies that she was upset because her boyfriend Kuro didn't accompany her. She apologizes and asks the snake why he wants her help. So the snake explains he doesn't understand why the woman named Tanio Aoi dumped Yoshihara Hiru's body in the lake, but it did hear Aoi's plea for the body to be found quickly. Koto explains to the snake that Tanio preferred that the snake find and eat the body rather than the police, but the snake is unconvinced by the explanation. Koto explains from the police report that Tanio's boyfriend, Machi Yoshikazu, committed suicide after being caught embezzling. Still, 2 years later, Yoshihara confessed he embezzled the money and murdered Machi to cover it up. Koto dumped Yoshihara's body as an offering to the snake, a former water god, in the hopes that rain would wash away evidence because she thinks Tanio is attempting to protect Machi's brother, who really stabbed Yoshihara. Kuro reveals himself, questioning why Koto keeps referring to him as her boyfriend. Meanwhile, the snake, confused by all the theories, demands to know the real reason Tanio dumped the body. Koto explains to the snake that it all started with her ex-boyfriend Mechi, who died in the arms of another woman, and this woman was his co-worker. After Mechi died, it was told that he embezzled a large sum of money from his account while he was working. He knew the boss would find out, and he had nowhere to hide the money. He and his co-worker were the only 2 people who knew about it, so they both agreed to die together in the bathtub. At the time this happened, Tanio was carrying his baby, and she thought she was carrying the baby of the man who had just betrayed her. Later on, she ended up having a miscarriage, so she dumped the unborn baby in the river out of spite. Tanio moved on with her life and got out of the city, and now she lives alone in the suburbs. Years go by, and the real culprit visits her house and confesses to her that he was actually the one who embezzled the money, and that Maki and his co-worker were the only 2 people who knew about it and threatened to make it public, so he killed them both. After hearing his confession, she got her revenge on the boss and then dumped his body in the river, hoping that the police would search the entire river in the hopes that they would find the unborn baby that she had with Machi. She had hoped to give the fetus a proper burial, which is why she whispered that she hoped someone would find it. The snake seems satisfied with this explanation, and as they leave, Koto tells Kuro that she gave the snake the most likely explanation possible. 2 years later, we see that Kuro's ex-girlfriend Saki is now a police officer. Saki and her partner discuss a recent case about a guy who crashed into the river while he was driving. Right after the incident, the guy told Saki he was distracted by a beautiful coast. He described her as a faceless lady. However, in the police report, Saki wrote down that it was a puppy on the road which caused him to crash into the river. Her partner argues with her and says it was best to use the right description, but Saki tells him they shouldn't mention the word ghost in their reports as it will only cause problems. Saki tells her partner that this was the work of a ghost called the Steel Lady, to which he replies by saying he's heard many similar cases of the Steel Lady, but still can't bring himself to believe that ghosts are actually real before her partner leaves. Saki tells him that these spirits and yokai exist in their world. Meanwhile, Saki believes that Nanis is real because, thanks to Kuro, she knows yokai exists. Saki runs into Koto on her way home. Koto was trying to fight Nanis at the time. Saki seems to be tired of being scared, so she tries to fend off Nanis herself, but she can't because she's a human and can't touch a ghost. Then, while attacking the ghost of Nanis, Koto's prosthetic leg comes loose and Nanis also runs away. After that, Koto convinces Saki to forget about everything, but Saki tries to take her to the police station to find out about Nanis's other attacks. However, after seeing her badge, Koto realizes Saki is Kuro's ex-girlfriend. Kono then introduces herself as Kuro's current girlfriend, which irritates Saki. They head over to Saki's apartment and Koto tells her that she and Kuro are now dating and are happily in love. She shows photos of them together, but after seeing the photos, Saki becomes convinced Koto is a stalker that Kuro can't get rid of. Saki defends her decision to leave Kuro after Koto agrees that Kuro can't be classed as human. After seeing how violent Nanis was, Saki was convinced Nanis would soon commit a murder. Koto reluctantly tells Kuro that she hasn't seen her in a week, which starts a small skirmish about who would be a better girlfriend for Kuro. After Koto leaves, Saki starts looking into Nanis. She finds out that her father died in an accident, but later evidence suggests that Nanis killed herself. To avoid the media, Nanis quit being an idol and started living in various hotels. Saki thinks she may have come back as a spirit of vengeance because people turned against her because of rumors. Kono is suspicious as Nanis feels less like an angry spirit than a hollow puppet taking orders and realizes she needs information only the police can provide. Saki then starts to investigate more about the Steel Lady and who she was before she died. She finds out the girl's real name is actually Karen Nanis. She was 18 at the time and wasn't doing too well in life until one day she got an important role as a leading actress and became a famous idol and was worshipped by many people that followed her. She continues searching and finds a website that talks about the idol. It is a fan wiki page, and there it tells her everything she needs to know about Nanis. She clicks on the wiki, and it explains the death of her father. Apparently, her father died in an accident by falling down the stairs, but then there were rumors that Nanis was the one who killed her father since he hated her for becoming famous and embarrassing his family. Because of this rumor, Nanis had to withdraw temporarily from acting, and a few days later, Nanis died of steel beams falling on top of her at a construction site. Afterward, Saki gets visited by a tree spirit sent by Koto to ask for information about Nanis' death. The implication is that she will keep sending yokai to bug her until she agrees. Koto is also now searching for a way to defeat the Steel Lady because all of her spirits and little creatures are too afraid of her, and since she's their goddess, she feels like she has to be the one to stop her. Later, Koto visits a restaurant where her meeting with Saki was scheduled. There, Koto gets greeted by a spirit that tells her the Steel Lady has appeared. So Koto hurriedly arrives at the location and sees someone fighting Nanis, and on closer look, it is surprisingly Kuro. Saka also arrives, and the two of them watch Kuro fight the Steel Lady. Kuro is losing the fight and takes a huge hit on his head from the metal beam, crushing our poor protagonist's head, only for it to regrow. Seki is concerned that Kuro still seems indifferent. Kuro approaches Nanis, avoids her violent attack, and subdues her. Saki is confused because his dodge appears to be perfectly timed. So Koto explains that approximately 10 generations ago, the head of Kuro's family forced his ancestors to consume Kuden flesh in order to gain prophetic abilities and mermaid flesh so that they would not perish after seeing the future. Nonetheless, even more people died and the experiments were discontinued. Afterward, Kuro's grandmother repeated the experiment and fed him the mermaid meat. After that, his final test was to eat the meat of the yokai called Cuban. After eating the Kuden, he gained the ability to see into the future. However, he could only use this power when he dies, so when the Steel Lady kills him, he uses this power to see into the future, and when he comes back to the life, he can predict all her moves. Then Saki watched Kuro break Nanis's neck, which only scared her more. Nonetheless, Nanis recovers, leading Kodo to end the battle, and Nanis vanishes. While conversing with Saki, Kuro reveals with a painful expression that his current girlfriend is Kodo. Kodo reveals that in Yokei's eyes, Kuro possesses the monstrous appearance of a human, a mermaid, and a kuden, which makes Nanis's lack of fear for him all the more unsettling. Hearing this causes our poor protagonist to get embarrassed. They all decide to meet in Saki's apartment. They talk about what they can do to defeat the Steel Lady, and that's when Kodo explains that Nanis is a different type of ghost from the rest of the yokai spirits and was made by the imaginations of millions of people. Also, the special wiki website dedicated to Nanis gave her the power she needed to become a powerful physical spirit. Saki asks Kodo how so many people were able to think of the same image in order to bring her to life, and she tells her it was because of the wiki page her fans created. Saki suggests shutting down the site, but that would be too legally complicated. So to stop her, they have to rewrite the story of the Steel Lady and make it interesting enough, so everyone stops believing the Steel Lady is a real ghost. And if they can do this, all the believers of the Steel Lady will change their minds, and she will cease to exist. To proceed with this plan, Kodo needs more information and asks Saki for her investigation files. Saki unwillingly provides more details about Nanis. The files have all the necessary information about Nanis. The police thought she probably killed herself, but in the end they said it was an accident. Hatsumi, Nanis' sister, never believed that Nanis was suicidal, but she still blamed Nanis for the death of their father, even though Nanis had an alibi when their father died. Later, the group arrives at the scene of the crime. Kodo calls up the ghost of a dead construction worker, which horrifies Saki. The worker says that the beams fell because of an accident, but Nanis did nothing to save herself, so she pretty much killed herself. Saki disagrees with Kodo's methods as it doesn't let the police understand the truth, and any alternate story is unlikely to be believed. Kodo decides to use Kuro's future predictions to find the right story, and Kuro agrees, even though it means he will have to die and come back to life. Kuro had said in the past that Kudens couldn't see the future. They choose a future from all the possible ones and work hard to make it happen, which kills them in the end. Our poor protagonist must let Nanis kill him again, and while he is dead, he must choose a future in which they defeat her. Sergeant Terada Tokunask, one of Saki's co-workers, thinks Nanis is a criminal in a costume and confronts her, but Nanis kills him. Saki is forced to lie about where she was when Terada was killed, and the news reports that Nanis was responsible for Terada's death, which spreads the rumors. Saki decides to help Kodo to avenge Terada. Kodo tells Kuro that his cousin Rika, who is in the hospital, is definitely involved, and Kuro admits that he can no longer defend her now that Nanis has killed someone. When Saki arrives, she is told that a new online rumor means Nanis will probably start chasing victims instead of letting them get away, making it even harder for Kuro to choose a stable and safe future. In order to come up with a better story, Kodo requests the truth from Saki. They have a hard time coming up with a fake culprit for Nanis' attacks and Terada's murder that sounds real enough until Kuro suggests spreading multiple rumors online and letting internet users create the fake culprit for them. At the same time, he can keep Nanis occupied by letting her keep killing him and picking new futures. Now that the plan is set, Kodo falls asleep from lack of rest while Kuro and Saki wait in the city for Nanis to appear. Saki decides to go with him because she is determined to overcome her fear of yokai. While bringing up his relationship with Kodo, Saki mentions Rika, who she assumed would be more Kuro's type, recalling that she was pretty and at the same time, physically weak with very pale skin. Saki remembers Rika having an unnatural aura and overheard the nurse mention that Rika tried to kill herself multiple times. Kuro reveals Rika is not dead, as she was also forced to consume Yokei's flesh and is unable to die. Kodo wakes up from her nap and worries something drastic happened between Kuro and Saki as they act awkwardly. After Saki expresses her curiosity about Rika, Kodo tells Saki that Rika entered the hospital to have her abilities medically analyzed. Still, she has now had been living in her mansion since being suddenly discharged and unsuccessfully trying to move in with Kuro. Kodo claims they got on well with Rika until she moved out of the mansion and disappeared a month previously. Then Kuro disappeared 2 weeks later until Kodo and Saki found him fighting Nanis. Saki deduces Rika somehow created Nanis and Kuro has been trying to stop her, and Kodo reveals the online image of Nanis was actually one of Rika's paintings. Kodo suspects Rika has been experimenting to see how powerful her ability to choose futures can be. Nanis appears in the city, while elsewhere, Rika kills herself to choose another future. She is really merciless to herself. Kuro begins to fight Nanas while Koto begins spreading rumors online, hoping to cause enough doubt in the online community that Nanas will be rendered powerless. Rika resurrects and watches events unfold online. Koto spreads the rumor a murderer planned to kill Detective Terada all along and makes the Nanas urban legend more popular before the murder to confuse the police. The murderer even dresses as Nanas to attack people and make the legend more believable so that Nanas will be blamed when Terada dies instead of the actual killer. As Kuro continues to fight with Nanas, Koto begins arguing with internet users online, spreading her fake story and providing reasonable answers to all their questions. In the end, she puts all of her theories together and begins a rumor the killer was a female police officer who worked with Terada at the same police station. Saki angrily notices the rumor basically describes her, and Koto admits she did base the rumor on Saki to potentially spare other innocent suspects. The internet users suddenly begin arguing again, and Saki and Koto realize Rika must be forcing other futures to come true as well as posting online herself. Meanwhile, Kuro is killed twice more and finds that certain futures have now been cut off due to Rika's interference. He resurrects and manages to disarm Nanas with her weapon, proving she is slowly growing weaker. Koto reveals she has multiple rumors prepared and begins spreading her second rumor. Koto spreads the idea that Nanas is actually a ghost who regrets being accused of murdering her father and is trying to convince people of her innocence. Koto reveals Nanas' father left a note saying he thought Nanas wanted to kill him. She thinks he did this because he was jealous of Nanas' success and wanted Nanas to be blamed. Koto then claims Nanas met her father in heaven and told her why he did it, turning her into a vengeful spirit. Koto asks everyone online to pray for Nanas so she can move on. Kuro dies again and grasps a weak thread of a possible future. The prayers weaken Nanas, but Rika regains partial control and people begin questioning Nanas' behavior. Rika kills herself again while Koto prepares her third rumor that Nanas is alive. Her sister Hatsumi always said Nanas would never kill herself, so she wonders if the body was someone else with the face smashed to hide her identity. Hatsumi must have wondered if Nanas faked her death to get back at her for spreading the rumor that she killed their father. Therefore, it is possible someone began faking Nanas' ghost to convince Hatsumi Nanas is dead, most likely a stalker who killed Terada after being caught in his Nanas costume. This rumor backfires when Rika points out that faking Nanas' ghost is more likely to scare Hatsumi, causing Kuro to lose the future he was trying to grasp. With the third rumor disproved, Rika moves on to other futures, so Koto springs her trap and returns to the idea Nanas' sister leaked the rumor Nanas killed their father. Seki realizes Koto had expertly manipulated Rika into selecting futures she wanted, and a future Kuro thought had disappeared suddenly appears again. Koto claims Nanas is still alive and faked her death by substituting the corpse of a girl she murdered and smashing her face to hide her identity. Afterward, Nanas assumes the girl's identity to begin a new life and creates the story of Steel Lady Nanas to convince people she had really died. This new rumor throws the internet into chaos as theories fly back and forth, this time about how Nanas is definitely not real. Rika loses her grip on a possible future as Nanas weakens considerably. Koto finishes her plan by claiming Nanas herself created the Nanas website and murdered Terada. She then challenges the website's creator, Rika, to somehow prove she is not Nanas. Unable to do so, Rika completely loses control of the future. Koto declares her victory as the internet decides Nanas is alive and not a ghost. Koto is savvy. Kuro selects a final future and strikes a final blow on Nanas by smashing her face with her steel beam. Rika emails Koto congratulating her on her victory but promising to return. Koto worries Rika may try again, reasoning that due to the limitless potential of human imagination, it may be possible to create anything, even a new god. The next day, Saki discovers the Nanas website has shut down and the internet users refocus on the rumor Nanas is still alive. Kuro takes Saki to dinner as Koto is still asleep, suffering from mental exhaustion. He explains that Rika is desperate to be human again and sought a medical solution in the hospital, but is now attempting to use her power to create a creature capable of turning her human. He worries this is impossible as Rika was always a little monstrous even before eating Yokei's flesh, yet he isn't worried because Koto considers it her duty to stop her. Kuro admits he is worried Koto keeps putting herself in danger, which is why he first tried to deal with Nanas without her. But now Rika knows Koto will try to stop her and Rika may try to kill her. Seika returns home, confident she will never see Kuro again. And she is also happy that someone is keeping the yokai world in order. Meanwhile, Koto wakes up irritated that she left Kuro alone with Saki for a day and a half. However, Kuro arrives and pacifies her. Ultimately, their final step is to find Rika and defeat her, while Koto continues her role as Goddess of Wisdom. Thanks for watching. Leave us a like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more.